Hey, comic book collectors, do you
Can
want
you
to
hear me?
protect what you collect? Do you hate when your comic books slide around in your short box, or you need to turn them sideways just so they don't bend or fall over? Well,
Yep.
look no further than Sidekick Supplies. Their product fits firmly inside your comic box, so you don't need to worry. And not only is their product
Yeah.
made in the USA, but also ships free directly to your doorstep. Check out our sponsor, Sidekick Supplies, at sidekicksupplies.com and use the code ComicCom15 for 15% off your purchase. Believe me, you'll be ordering more than one.
Welcome to the one and only ComicCompodcast, your podcast for comic book news, reviews, and comic community drama, with your hosts, Nemesis Prime and Milton the Manimal. Are you listening?
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Comic Con Podcast, Season 4, Episode 48. Recording this on December the 5th. We have hit December, final month of the year, final month. Doing a lot of rewind at the end of the year. Can't wait. We are going to make this a quick one because this guy's always traveling. He's got some stuff going on. Who the hell knows? It is what it is. So, welcome to the show, Zach. How are you?
Yo, what's going on? I'm actually something's happening with my computer too, where I can't get the window to pop up. So I'm flying blind right here. I can't see you, but I saw you before.
That's
So
fine. That's fine.
let's see how this goes.
We're going to work through this as long as you can hear me. That's the most important, and I
Yeah.
can hear you, and the people can hear you. So that's all that
Yeah.
matters. So let's kind of kick it. We're trying to rush this show, so I just want to let you know I literally was blowing through yellow lights, stop signs to make sure to get home as soon as possible.
Well, those are
record
just
this for you.
those are just suggestions, anyways. So
Yeah. So, but let's kick it. Let's get into the community stuff real quick. First and foremost, of course, March 22nd, 2025, King Kong show at APA Hotel. Your boy is the Comic Con podcast, set up with our buddy V. Ken Marion in the Artist Alley section. He is adding artists left and right, as well as all the community members. So make sure you go ahead, and tickets are on sale right now at KingKongShow.com. So King Kong Comic Show on March 22nd. Another shout out to our buddy Tim from the Uncensored Nerds podcast. That collaboration episode has been dropped. You can hear it exclusively on Spotify. Check out our stories. Go check out Tim. It was a cool hour show that we got to kind of almost be interviewed, because we really don't do interviews. We're usually on the other side where we're getting interviewed. So
it was kind of new for us a little bit, like being on someone else's channel talking about ourselves.
Yeah. It's been a while since, and especially you and I being together doing that.
Yeah.
Usually, I'll jump on some show, but it was nice to. I kind of was watching it as it got released today on the 5th. But make sure people go check out Tim Uncensored Nerds podcast exclusively on the Spotify platform. So let's get into some community questions. So first and foremost, our buddy Mike the Beast Benson, with the CW DC universe officially over, do you guys have a favorite moment or character from the Arrowverse? Also along with Creature Commandos and the Green Lanterns, which DC properties would you like to see in the TV series as opposed to a TV film or film? I'm sorry. So I'll go first, since Zach can think about this for a little bit. CW DC Universe just ended this week with the series finale, season 4 of Superman and Lois. I do need to catch up. I was only about halfway through the season, and then I kind of just dropped because there was other things going on. But I did see some awesome stuff. The Doomsday fight, the Doomsday in general, just on the CW, was absolutely amazing. So I can't wait to finish up that storyline and watch this, the final thing of the Arrowverse. For me, I think the best thing that came out of the CW Arrowverse was, Arrow in general. I can remember going back to season 1 and just watching and being like, man, this is a grounded character who I've read about, I've liked over the years since New 52. You've seen him in the Justice League animated. You've seen him here and there in some animated movies. But I just think that initial, the Hood character, the vigilante, was just such a cool thing. And it really sparked all the extensions and spinoffs that, Greg Berlanti was able to do. So definitely Arrow season 1 is top for me. As far as, what's next, between the Creature Commandos, that's also just got released, I guess, episode 1. I think it's weekly, and the Lantern's coming. I want to see a Batgirl TV series rather than a film. I want to see, exactly like Arrow and Batwoman, get a more grounded character who we know more people know about Batgirl than Batwoman, right? So there's an easier way that you can even kind of throw in some of the rogues galleries of Batman here and there, not use them, but almost use them to a way that, similar to Penguin, right? Like there's a way that you could do an entire season and only make it 8 episodes and it just be this one villain the entire way.
Yeah.
So,
Huh.
what about you, man?
So, I mean, the Arrowverse, all in all, man, it was a lot of fun, right? Like, I mean, we kind of came off of the closest thing we had before that was Smallville, right? When you got to like I'm going to mess this up, but let's say season 6, when you started getting introduced to like the mini Justice League, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of like really got that. And I think it was it season 3? Well, first off, season 2 for Arrow, when you had like all the Deathstroke stuff, was awesome. That was amazing, right? And like just the islands and like their backstory together and how they were like, attached. And then I really thought the big thing that like was amazing was the Flash introduction, right? So they introduced the Flash in like a mid-season pilot type thing, and then it spins off into its own. And obviously the Flash went on to have more seasons than any other show in the Arrowverse.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the way they introduced characters and the way they did all that, and the same thing with like the Legends of Tomorrow, they were introduced in the show. Supergirl was introduced like inside shows and then kind of like came through. And then I think just the crossovers, man. I mean, they kind of like wore after a while, but that first crossover, like I think that was Infinite Earths or Crisis on Infinite Earth, might have been the first one they did. And it was so cool. Like overall the shows, each show had like an episode like that. There was just a lot of highlights. And like, don't get me wrong, they were cheesy. You always had like the guy in the chair. Everyone had a team, the Arrow team, the Flash team, and it was all the same like formula, but it was cool, dude. And it was really, really good stuff. I look back fondly on the Arrowverse. It's a horrible name, by the way. Arrowverse. Like, this is horrible. They could never come back with a better name than that.
Well, you look at everything has the verse. It's the Arrowverse, the Snyderverse. It was, DC never has like the DC.
You should just call it the DC verse. I don't know why they call it Arrowverse.
Even the Nolan verse. Like Nolan had 3 movies and it was like the Nolan verse.
Right. With Creature Commandos and stuff, like I think it's good. I think we have reached a point with TV shows. Marvel's messed up here and there, but they've got it right sometimes too. And there is a way to have these TV shows like introduce characters and things that some characters just don't need a live action film. They don't, and it'd be better to have them introduced. Like I'll follow your Batgirl suggestion. It'd be much better to have a Batgirl television show or something. And then she shows up in a Batman movie or something like that. And so her backstory's already been established. And you don't have to waste time in the cinematic, like saying, oh, here's Barbara Gordon and blah, blah, blah. Like set it up, move it on. So yeah, I'm excited. It's hard to say how well they'll do. I think the verdict's still out on the Gunverse.
There we go.
Right. Creature Commandos is an animated show, so it's going to be a little different. It's not the same as a live action. And I know we have a lot of hope because the Penguin was so good, but you have to also keep in mind that is the Ryan verse. Is it
the Matt Reeves verse?
Matt Reeves verse, yeah, the Matt Reeves verse. So we can't assume that Penguin was so awesome and that the shows on the Gunverse will be as awesome either. So
yeah.
There's a lot to be hopeful for, though, man. There's a lot to be hopeful.
Yeah, listen, 2024 has been an upswing for DC for sure with Penguin. I've heard nothing but great things about Creature Commando so far. I think it's just dropped 1 episode, maybe 2. I really don't know how it is, but I know I'll be checking it out this weekend. And I know it got a really good score on Rotten Tomatoes and people have been praising it. So, we'll just continue and we'll hope we're at some point this month, we are getting a trailer for Superman. So, that'll start teasing some things out, and then 2025 we'll start kicking off with some more shows and movies. Yep. So super excited for that. Next up for a question, which is also great because it's a community question / article. Our buddy Scott Palachek, who recently just had his Kickstarter Marcus issue 2 just came out.
Yep.
Yeah, it just came out. So we got some copies. We read it. Make sure you go check his Kickstarter episode with us. And he's got a cool question. He goes, what do you guys think about Ryan Reynolds possibly writing a Deadpool storyline? So actually, this just got posted on Bleeding Cool earlier today. Ryan Reynolds to write a Deadpool comic book, according to Rob Liefeld. So the summary of it, Rob Liefeld hints that Ryan Reynolds will write a Deadpool comic by 2025. Longtime wish now becoming a reality. Publications of Deadpool Team Up number 5 marks Rob Liefeld's final work with Marvel Comics as both writer and artist, though. It looks like there is a possibility that Rob Liefeld, Rob Liefeld definitely did not buy this because it is his last Deadpool work, which it is, or my last Marvel work, which it is also, but it's because it's good. It definitely is that. But also, I'm turning in this issue late. I'm finished in a few days. After the giant delay on number 4, I just finished at my pace. But Rob Liefeld also posted, for years now, I've asked Ryan Reynolds to write a Deadpool story, but to no avail. He said, sad face. Sounds like one is coming in 2025. So, this is not the first time, right? We've seen it before. There's been wrestlers, there's been actors, actresses who have all tried to dip their toe into the river of comic book realm. Haven't seen anybody. Has there again? We've done it before. Has there anybody been successful? No.
I mean, what you had, and I always wonder too, like with like Emilia Clarke and even Keanu Reeves, like how much were they part of the writing? I have questions about that. I think the ones that like, Taboo from Black Eyed Peas, I think he actually wrote some stuff. He did like Werewolf by Night. He did he did another mini series. CM Punk, right? Wrote for a little while. Wrote some comics for a little while.
He wrote Drax. He wrote the Drax book. And then there's Starboy. He did his one-shot comic for Marvel.
I mean, no one's broke the mold, right? No one's
that's what it is.
High.
But could Ryan Reynolds break the mold because of the fact that he's been Deadpool for 3 movies and he knows the character enough so he can, because I'm sure he had a lot written for the script of the movie. So it's kind of, it transitions into a comic book, now with the storyboard, other than just a storyboard, it's more, more pages, and I'm sure he could do it. Would it be a one and done? I would say let's just try it at a one and done and then go back. But I'm sure Ryan's busy with a million other things. But I'm excited for the team up because it is issue number 5, and the team up is Deadpool for this final issue of Rob Liefeld is Deadpool and Ghost Spider. So excited to see it. So
is it also, if Ryan Reynolds is writing it, right, with writing Deadpool, you have to assume it's going to be like R-rated, right? I mean, that's his whole Deadpool thing has been R-rated. So I don't think that's going to translate well to Marvel Comics, the language and humor that was occurring in the Deadpool movies into, unless it's a Max series. But I mean, look, it's cool. I think it's cool as like a fan of what he's done with Deadpool. I'm not a Deadpool comics fan, so I can't imagine I would. I mean, maybe I'll pick it up or I'll read it. I'm not really like, I'm not like, oh, sweet. But I think it's cool. I'm excited for him, I guess, That's fun.
I mean, give everybody a chance. There's enough comics out there that one comic is not going to ruin the entire the entire either studio publication, character. It's over.
As much bad stories as Deadpool has written on him as well. Like, there's no way whatever he writes is going to be the worst. So, good Lord.
No, definitely not. So we appreciate the questions, guys. Remember, you could always hit us up on our Instagrams when we post it on our stories, or email us articles and questions, voicemails to TheComiCompodcast@gmail.com. Let's kick it over to our second article of the night. This one's pretty interesting. This one's over at CBR. This was posted a few days ago. I think this is right up your alley.
Yeah, well, I thought it was kind of right up your alley. That's why I picked this one up.
I figured.
I feel like we talked about this relatively recently. Anyway, the article is...
Yes, we did on Tim's Uncensored Nerds. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it's how DC can fix their Tim Drake problem, right? So I'm not going to read the article. It goes on to kind of talk about how the character of Tim Drake has kind of stagnated throughout the years. Obviously, for a very long time, he was the only Robin till, if I remember when I read this, let's say 2006 when they introduced Damian Wayne. But prior to that, for a really long time, he was the only Robin. And since then, he's kind of had some identity issues with whether he was, Robin, whether he was Red Robin, whether he was just Drake. And they go on to kind of talk about just it's really struggled with this character and he needs to grow and evolve. Now, this article, one of the things I found really funny about this, did you read the whole article by chance?
I did not, unfortunately. I read most of it, but that's what you're here for.
So you guess what they don't talk about throughout at all in this whole article is the sexuality change. And I found that very Yes, and I find that really like a glaring hole where they're like, oh, Tim Drake has become such a, you know, he doesn't have an identity. And it's like, well, he did have an identity, and then you guys threw a wrench in it and switched everything up, and that really affects things when you now made the story where he's like a bisexual, which like whatever, and every one of his stories revolves around the fact that he's a bisexual now. Some people are not going to like that, and some people are not going to be like, well, you know what, I'm not really interested in that. I mean,
Mhm.
you're writing a story that caters to a 1% of the population, and you're hoping that the rest of your fan base is going to be like, oh, awesome, dude, it's really cool. I always wondered if Tim Drake was what would happen if he's a bisexual, so like it not hitting, I don't know, it kind of makes sense. But I think the article also goes on to kind of talk about how they should lean more into the fact that he's considered like, and I think you brought this up as well when we were talking about it on Uncensored Nerds, he's considered the best detective in DC Comics. And
Yeah.
like that's a realm that they could really go into. Like a 12-issue series or something, like a maxi series about Tim Drake just like solving like crime noir, like almost in the vein of the Matt Reeves Batman, very detective-esque. You don't even have to have the Bat team like around,
Mhm.
just him. Stuff like that is like would be really good. I mean, honestly, even with this all-in DC stuff, you could carve him out a really good role with DC's all in with the Justice League. Everyone's a Justice League member now, right? And maybe he's
Mhm.
the go-to investigator for the Justice League or something. Um, yeah, it's too bad because I think Tim Drake, he obviously is probably when I say the worst, I don't mean the worst, but he's definitely the bottom of the barrel of the Robins, right? And it's unfortunate because there is so many interesting things about Tim Drake as a Robin character, where he chose Batman. He doesn't have necessarily the tragedy that like all the rest of the Robins had, and his intelligence level. So there's a lot that can be done with this character, man, and it's unfortunate that he just kind of falls in these roles when it doesn't seem like they know what to do with him.
Yeah, you figure, for people that don't know, he as a child, as like a young teen, figured out who Batman was and who
Mhm.
Nightwing was, and that's kind of how it started for him. He led 100 and God, I think it was like 150 issue series that
Yeah,
started in the 90s that went into the 2000s, deep into the 2000s. You
the
know,
longest running Robin title, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was 100%. He, he really grew in the DC Rebirth with
Mhm.
the Detective Comics run, the James Tynion run, 100%. Like
Yeah.
he created the Belfry that they all worked out of,
Yep.
all his
Yep.
tech, like he helped all that stuff. And there was just so many good storylines with him there that, yeah, he became a really cool Robin and someone that you could enjoy to read. And then, yeah, then you just kind of flip that switch and it's just like, I don't care anymore. Like he's not, to me, it's not something that I want to read about, unfortunately. And that's why the
Yeah.
Damian storylines are great right now with Batman and Robin. The
Hmm.
Batman, what I talked about last week, the Batman and Robin year one, which is, Dick as a young kid, kind of a maxi series. Nightwing stuff is good. Unfortunately, Red Hood's kind of nowhere to be found right now, but still, like Tim has a lot to go for, but you got to write him in the correct way. And I think, like you just said, right now with the All In, give him a maxi series, let it be a detective thing because he has the capabilities of being a great detective.
Yeah. They just need to carve out a role for him, and just let him kind of operate on his own. Like I actually would love to see him with no supporting characters. Like I don't want to see spoiler. I don't want to see the go-to crutches that he typically has. Like let's just have Tim Drake out there solving crimes and go back to like like switch him back to Red Robin, right? Because we already have Robin. Switch him back to Red Robin. Hell, if you want to call him Drake, it's kind of lame, but I like the Red Robin name. I think that's cool. Even like the New 52, he was the Titans guy, right? He was the Robin
Yep.
leader of the Titans. And that was an awesome storyline as well. So I think he's a great character that just is kind of like they said in the article, just stagnated. They got to figure out something to do with him.
Yeah, that's how I
Yeah.
feel with even when New 52 kind of introduced the Wally West character, right? They changed his
Yeah.
race and he was such a
Yeah, it
great
was
character
weird.
growing up in the 90s. And because after Crisis on Infinite Earths, you're like, Wally was the, the Flash for so long. and then
Oh yeah.
until Jeff
For
Johns
most
kind of came
people,
back
that's
and
the Flash. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
then he just wasn't the same character when he was reintroduced in the New 52. And he's kind of in that world too. He doesn't know, like when you think of Flash now, you're not thinking about Wally and Barry, Kid Flash. We all know who Bart is. Like he's usually with the Teen Titans crew or Young Justice crew. But then you have he's kind of in the middle. So
Yeah.
They need to figure out what to do.
The New 52 stuff with Wally was weird because, like you said, the race swap, and then there was the original Wally West was like lost in the time stream, and then they brought him back in, and it was all convoluted. It made no sense, as the time travel stories typically don't make sense. But now Wally's back. I mean, he's the Flash, and Barry's gone in All In. So it's very strange. Yeah, I don't know. They gotta do something. But.
Definitely. So next up is kind of a cool topic, and I thought about it this week, and I'm pretty sure once I talk about it, a lot of people are going to be like, "Yeah, that's 100% right." And it includes, because the reason why I want to bring this up is because 2 issues I picked up this week are completely deceiving, and the topic is comic book covers deceiving to the buyer, and also to the comic shop that's ordering it. So, do you feel, because the two culprits this week. And they're definitely going to be on and I'm sure you'll agree with me, is Ultimate Spider-Man number 11. The cover has Black Cat on it, so it's got the Ultimate Universe Black Cat on the cover, with her costume, and Spider-Man's there, and she's got this jewel, and you're like, all right, cool. This issue is going to be about the introduction of Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, because we know a couple issues prior, her father was like shot off the building from Green Goblin,
right?
Got his legs broken, and so now in this issue, she was kind of introduced in that issue a few issues ago, because when they created Sinister Six, they talked about how Felicia Hardy's father has a family, his daughter, and it was just like a family portrait. So if you want to consider that her first appearance, it was just like a one picture thing. Then you got this issue. So you're like, all right, cool. They're going to have this awesome issue with Peter and Felicia, and it's going to be great because it's an all new universe. She is in one panel.
Yeah.
No words.
Talk, right? Yeah.
Doesn't talk. Her father introduces her, and it's not even like a cliffhanger where it's the end of the issue, which is going to lead to the next issue. She's just standing there looking confused. And it's just like, okay, this is, I bought the book hoping that we were going to get something, right?
Right.
So that's one issue this week. And the other issue, which is the Batman. So on the Batman this week, you have a cover. It's got Batman looking like he's fighting the Court of Owls, it even says, and it's got the Riddler. And it's like Riddler. I don't have the issue in front of me, but it's like Riddler.
It says riddled by, I'm looking at it right now. It says riddled
by the Court of the Owls.
Yeah.
Court of the Owls.
They weren't in it at all. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So it's so deceiving. It's so deceiving to go and want to read this book, because it was, the storyline had nothing to do with it. Like, we'll talk about it as we're also going to switch into our weekly reads, but the whole issue was about Jim Gordon, being more of this noir character and dealing with this detective stuff, and him like sleeping with this girl, blah, blah, blah. And then there's like a very small part where Batman's in there and Riddler's in there, but there's no Court of Owls. There's no fighting. There's nothing that has anything to do with the cover.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like DC, Marvel are notorious for this. Image and those indie things, it's never about that, because, the cover is the cover. But when you set up something like this, when you're like, let's just say, for instance, Ghost Spider-Gwen, it's her series. And then in the corner or whatever, it's like featuring Deadpool. You're like, all right, so I guess Deadpool is going to be in it. Sometimes they just make it be like the character shows up, says, hey, and then bounces. Or, just the whole idea of this week of Batman, riddling with the Court of Owls. You're like, okay, Riddler's going to be in there. He's setting up something with the Court of Owls. The Court of Owls are going to be fighting Batman. There was nothing in this issue. So it's very strange how they do that. And they kind of get you, because, and I didn't see any of the variants, so I'm only going off of the main cover, right? So maybe the B covers are probably just Batman, and then maybe the 1 in 25s have the Court of Owls or something. I really don't know, but I don't like how that deceives the reader into possibly picking up this comic, because then they're wasting their money on an issue that they shouldn't be, and or if you're continuing thinking of like where you're going to go.
Yeah, it's a kind of
Thoughts?
false advertisement.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see it all
Let's
the time
sue
in
them.
Marvel. Yeah, exactly. In like Marvel and DC, it'll be like, oh, Hulk's fighting Ghost Rider in this issue, and on the cover they're like battling each other, but in the issue they're not battling at all, or something like that. So yeah, it's nothing new for sure. I don't know. I don't see it changing anytime soon. Yeah, the indie books typically will just have like Spawn covers, like always just Spawn on the front doing something. It's not like, oh, check it out, Violator's here, and then he doesn't show up in the issue. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a lost cause to battle this one.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen it tons of times on X-Men, right?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
got to be an X-Men title where they show some character on the cover and they're not even in it, where they're mentioned.
This week, the cover for X-Men #8 is Rogue punching Cyclops in the face.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen in the book at all. So, I mean, she does make an appearance, don't get me wrong, in like the final panels, but yeah.
Nowhere to be found.
Nowhere.
And I didn't even read, I know on my, let's just call it like Miles 27 has Black Panther on the cover. I don't even think he shows up, and I could be wrong, but yeah, I think that's the thing right now is the publishers need to realize more of what goes on a cover is important. It should be whatever is on the cover should have something to do with something inside the storyline. Don't just put it out there to put it out there. There, maybe, and let's just say, hey, maybe this was a mistake. Maybe this cover is for the next book, and the artist didn't have it in time. Okay, but it shouldn't be a continuing thing, especially 2 books in the same week, which 2 books that I'd like to read, Batman being one of them, and also the Ultimate Spider-Man stuff. Like, you can't have that.
Yeah. Yep. No, I get you. Like I said, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Right? You got to have your covers dynamic, I guess.
Yeah.
But
it's definitely a weird thing to deal with. So let's kind of kick it into our reads for the week. So we can get this over with. I know my man Zach's got some stuff because he's still traveling. So let's do some quick reads real quick.
Okay.
I'll start us off. So Batgirl #2, another solid issue, keeping it with Cassandra Cain and her mother, as I talked about for the first issue. I recommend the series because I love Cassandra. If you're a fan of Cassandra, this is her good turning point, because she's another one. She was a Batgirl for a very long time. There was a series that went 70 or 80 issues, I think.
Yeah,
Same thing.
long time. Yeah.
Another Batgirl. She had a longer series than Barbara Gordon. And again, most people would probably know her in the 90s as their Batgirl. So definitely check that out. Another title which I find is not the best, but I love the Ghost Spider series just for the art alone. I think finally we have a Ghost Spider series where the art finally matches the action, because it's just always been very little bit cartoonish, but we do get the awesomeness that I love of Spider-Gwen. Another title that I enjoyed this week, and I'm sure we're both going to real quick, we'll talk about it, is Absolute Superman #2.
Yeah, right? It's wild though. Are you confused at all? Like, I'm still trying to figure out like his power set, like what's going on with his suit.
So here's what it is,
or whatever, the dust or whatever.
I like how he is still Superman because he's a Kryptonian and it's on Earth, and I guess he has to recharge his powers. But as I finished up the issue, I'm realizing that both him and Batman, like their suits, right, or their capes, are kind of like their accessory armor. They do something, right? So I'm interested to see eventually when they finally meet how much like fighting the cape and cowl go, right? Like his thing. But again, I think the Absolute Superman's interesting. You have this Lois Lane character who's more of militaristic, and then there's still like this back end Superman villain who's hiding in the weeds that they really don't realize is a villain, right? So other than that, just the 2 quick issues I also want to talk about. So one is going to be my hot garbage, not really a hot garbage, probably more of like an book, and then my pick of the week. My book is, and I don't know if you got a chance to pick up, the Ultimates #7.
Yeah, I read that one.
It's weird, and I was like, did I skip an issue? Because the last issue when we talked about it was awesome. It had the Hulk and the whole Fists of Khonshu and everything from all the Iron Fist stuff and the Ultimates fighting, and then it ended with Doom bringing everybody back. And this kind of starts off, and I didn't understand it at all. Like, I knew they were kind of having this memorial for Tony, but all this other stuff was happening at the same time. I was like, was there an
No,
issue in between that I should have been reading?
the memorial was for the like all the lives that got lost, like on the big event that started the whole universe, not for
Okay.
Tony, because Tony's like a bad guy. They're all terrorists. They're all considered terrorists. But yeah,
Okay.
Tony's like, I keep saying he's dead, but he's like, obviously he's in that tube at the end there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. It was kind of like it felt like a filler issue. Obviously, you kind of got to slow things down after the previous issue. You pretty much killed Iron Man, or Iron Lad, I guess. And then, yeah, so it was like everyone kind of dealing with the fallout of that.
Yeah, it was definitely a strange issue, and I just, for whatever reason, I was just like, this is like such a slow. There just should have been a bigger fallout, I think. Like the characters kind of like, because they basically got the crap kicked out of them in the last
Right.
issue, and then you go ahead and you go to this issue, and no one's really talking about it. It was
Yeah.
very strange. So, but pick of the week, and I'm sure you're going to be talking about it, and I hope you read it. Was Two-Face #1.
Yeah, I did
Oh.
read it. Yeah.
Unbelievable. You know, I talked about it in the preview. They've been previewing it in a lot of the DC books over the past 2 weeks, but this week, you know, you had the Two-Face #1. Just absolutely amazing. Written by Christian Ward, and it's just something that we've already seen, right? We've seen the Poison Ivy series going long term. That's continuing. We've seen this Penguin series that has been solid, and now we have Harvey Dent, who is another character in the, you know, the DC universe, who's another villain. But I mean, he's trying to play the role of what he used to be. Like, he used to be a district attorney. He's trying to do this court system, but the courts are in the villain's hands. So unbelievable issue. And I like how he's really trying to get away from the Two-Face persona. And I always think that's the best thing, is if a writer can write both Harvey Dent and Two-Face as two different people,
Yeah.
it's always solid. It's always going to be a solid read, because you have just two different people you have one person on the page, but it's two different people, instead of it just being like the way they're talking is, all right, there's Harvey talking here and there's Two-Face talking here. There's actually two different personalities, written well, solid to read, 100% pick of the week for Two-Face.
Yeah, I liked it. And I like how I felt like the addition of Victor Zsasz, it was a good addition, because it's a very grounded character that matches Two-Face. So it's not like a super campy villain like a Mr. Freeze or something like that. So it really matches the tone of like, hey, we got this murderer on the streets and here's a district attorney, you know? And I meant to tell you this like a couple days ago or something like that. I think I saw somewhere it's a 5-issue series, 5 or 6, something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I really like that one too. Let's see, what did I like this week? So, I know what my pick of the week is. The X-Men book was good. It's a 4-part event just started called Raid on Grey Malkin. So the old Xavier Institute is now a prison for mutants, and Beast has been captured, and so the X-Men are going after to free him. And so you have 2 sets of teams. You have what's called...
This is the villain Beast, right? This is the Beast from the X-Force? Or this is the...
Oh, man. Let's go back. So...
Okay.
Yeah, it's wild. So the villain Beast from X-Force got killed at the end of X-Force.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
But he had made Beast clones, and one of the clones he put with like the memories of Beast during the time of the Wonder Man, when Beast and Wonder Man were like partners. And so that's the Beast we have. So it's like a Beast with no memory or no history past Wonder Man time, and he's now in the world. And there's some really like touching moments where like Cyclops is telling Magic or something, like she's like, what are we doing? We're going after him. And he's like Henry McCoy is my best friend in the world. He's my brother. He's like, I already lost him once to, you know, when he turned into a psychopath and went, you know, rogue. He goes, I refuse to lose him. Like, now I have a second chance with my brother, and I refuse to lose him again. So I thought that was really cool. There's some epic Cyclops like just scenes. He's just the best X-Men. I don't know what to say about that. But yeah, you got the Alaska team, and then you have the Louisiana team, and they're going to kind of come to odds, it looks like, in this. So interesting stuff. What else? there's the NYX. I don't know. Some people call it NYX. Some people call it Mix. It's just not very good. And like, I don't know if I'm a big X-Men dude, but like I had never liked Mojo. Like Mojo and like Arcade, those stories I'm always like, oh god. Like I'm just kind of like, ugh, get past it. And so Mojo's taking part in this storyline. It's kind of crappy. You do see the return of Kaiden from the original NYX run. So it was interesting to see her team back up or like meet back up with X-23. So that should be really interesting. And then next week, I'm really excited. Next week, they're going to, or not next week, next issue, there's going to be kind of like a, I don't know if a battle or like kind of a battle between Prodigy and Sync, when I think it's really cool. It's going to be really interesting because in a way, their powers are similar to the aspect of like they don't have their own power set. Their power set is more or less glommed off of other people, where Prodigy is like next to him and he learns all their techniques, and Sync can like sync up with you and take your mutant power and others at the same time. So there's supposed to be like a showdown there, and that could be kind of cool. What else did I like? I don't know, man. Quickly, what were your thoughts on all new Venom?
I'm glad you talk about it.
It was
unnecessary.
Yeah.
Unnecessary, people. I just can't, the whole issue is there's all the characters who were, what we talked about in the preview, like who possibly could be the Venom. And it doesn't really go anywhere. And I'm afraid that they're gonna take an entire story arc to tell you who this Venom character is.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of dumb too. And like obviously each character like says something and makes you think that they might be the one, and then like at the end you have Dylan Brock, which was cool to see him back at least. But I don't know, time will tell with that. My backup pick of the week was Thundercats Apex. Really enjoyed that one.
Yes. Oh, I completely forgot about it. Yes, the Chitara series ended, and Apex. Yes, let's talk about it.
So yeah, Chitara ended last week, I believe, and then it was good. You kind of knew where it was going to go. It didn't really have wasn't really pushing the story too much.
But you got you got Thundera, like because
you got a lot of Thundera.
That was the thing when I spoke with Sue. Like you never seen this before. We've always just seen Third Earth.
Very true. Yeah. So that was cool. The Thundercats Apex, that was a bit of a twist. I don't know if we want to talk about that or not.
Let's not spoil it, but we could talk about it.
Who Apex ended up being was kind of like, wow, okay, that's cool. And which is good, dude. Like you need with these nostalgic type characters and like storylines, you've got to do something new. You got to bring something in there. So some crazy things happened in that issue. Apex was wild. You know who it reminded me of? Oh man, I don't know if I say that I'll tell you offline, because I feel like if I say the correlation here, it's going to kind of give away who this person is. But anyway, really cool stuff. But my pick of the week was last week's book, which I just read this week, was Hornsby and Halo. So it's a Ghost Machine. Yeah. Ghost Machine, part of the Family Odysseys subtitle, I guess, if you will. And a really sweet concept. It's this idea that like there's heaven and hell, and they have a peace treaty, and to like monitor the peace treaty and to monitor everyone to make sure everyone's playing by the rules, they take a baby angel and a baby demon or devil, and they put them in Earth, and then they switch them with families. So they put the baby demon with a very supportive family, and they put the baby angel with a less supportive family. And so it's got this idea of nature versus nurture. So these two kids orbit each other in like school and stuff, and they're kind of in this first issue, they don't know about their history at all, but something happens in the issue where they both kind of like go into like a dream state and activate their devil and angel, but throughout the issue as well, you see them kind of do things like the antithesis of what they are, right? It's like the devil girl is like protecting someone, and the angel guy is kind of like, his parents are pieces of shit. He's kind of like condoning it somewhat. But I really liked the idea. I think it was really cool. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. You liked it too?
It was a solid issue for sure. Yeah. The whole stopping of the war, like that's the idea, is like they're doing this as a balancing, and there's still some, and there's always somebody who is watching over both of them, right? To kind of monitor them. And I kind of like how the later half of the issue kind of saw something, like you kind of saw like what their, I don't want to call them abilities, but something that kind of is going to be more broad.
Their true nature.
Yeah, their true nature, because you kind of see that even in like the preview for issue 2, like what the cover looks like. So, and I do find it interesting kind of how what's the boy's name?
Hornsby, right?
Yeah,
that's his last. No, he's Halo. Sorry, he's Halo.
Okay,
she's Hornsby.
So like when Halo's in the graveyard and how he can only go so far. Like there's a stopping point for him.
Yeah,
which I thought was pretty interesting. But yeah, I like this series, and I actually and just real quick, speaking of the Ghost Machine, I got a chance to read Hyde Street 2 from last week with Pranky.
Yeah,
that was again another wild episode. If you people are not reading the Ghost Machine stuff, it should be on your pull list, because every issue has been great for every series.
Yeah, dude, there really hasn't been like, even like the Rockefellers was awesome. Like I'm enjoying Geiger's awesome. Yeah, there's not a bad title in the Ghost Machine right now. So
good.
But yeah, that's what I got this week.
Cool, man. Awesome. Great reads this week for sure. That's it. Quick episode this week. We appreciate everybody. Hopefully everyone had a great holiday. We have a couple more episodes. I think next week Zach's back, and we have a very special planned episode. We're doing a it's going to be, well, I guess it's like a David Letterman top 10 of some people in the comic book community. So it's for sure going to get some listens and watches.
Let's tease it out. Let's tell them. Let's tell them so
you tell them the premise. It's all you, but I'm going to be running this show.
So throughout the history of the Comic-Con podcast, this may shock you to find out that I have upset some people in the comic book community, and therefore those people have chosen to block me on Instagram. So I've been keeping a list of individuals who have me blocked on Instagram, and I think the list is up to like something like 12 or 13, and we're going to run down and tell you all the people on the list. And there's some surprises on there. There's some people I have no idea who the hell they are.
Or why.
So
that's why we're going to discuss next week.
We're going to run it down and talk about all the people who decided it was safer to block me than to interact with me, I guess. I don't know. Cowards.
Yeah.
But
so we're going to do a little
episode.
David Letterman top 12.
Top 12, 12 or 13, I think is what it is.
Yeah. So that's it. That's it, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be back next week for the top 12 of the blockage of Zach Milton.
Yep.
Later, everybody.
Later, guys.
Hey, comic book collectors. Do you want to protect what you collect? Do you hate when your comic books slide around in your short box, or you need to turn them sideways just so they don't bend or fall over? Well, look no further than Sidekick Supplies. Their product fits firmly inside your comic box, so you don't need to worry. And not only is their product made in the USA, but also ships free directly to your doorstep. Check out our sponsor, Sidekick Supplies, at sidekicksupplies.com and use the code ComicCon15 for 15% off your purchase. Believe me, you'll be ordering more than one.